yeah, recap. This game was played in the jam yesterday by Dom, Master, and Voxy, and let's just say it was magical to see it actually work in multiplayer because I could only test in single player and just simulate what the codes would be and just play it from the perspective of one player. But this game takes up plenty of different shortcuts to actually minimize the amount of codes that you need to send. For instance, at the very start, there's this very simple menu with which you'd select who to play as, and the only other way you could decide who to play as, I guess, in GBG Shop with party play, you can, I guess the playmaster can handle that, but otherwise you need to have like a main player, usually player 1, send a code to everyone to determine yes you're player 2 and yes you're player 3. But here, thanks to the theming of the gem, I was able to essentially say Dom will select Dom, Master will select Master, then Voxy will select Voxy, and that just skips a few steps ahead for me, and everyone can select their own player. So let's just say I decide to play as Dom. So I'm player 1, and hypothetically there are 2 more players. That honestly, I think the console audio is still very loud. I thought it was low, but it's very loud from the Mario Kart sessions. Let's do 10%. Okay. So again, right now I am playing as Dom, and I can on the first turn no one can do special. Because we don't have enough TP. It tries, but as soon as it sees that I don't have enough TP to do it, it brings me back. So I can either attack or defend. And let's just say that I decide to defend, and that everyone else also decided to defend. Let's see if I remember, it should be 0-7 for Master. And as you can see, it went from thinking to ready. And 3-5 for Voxy. So I'll be talking about these codes in a little bit. If I do that, everyone defended and the boss attacks. A lot of stuff happened, so I'll just start with the codes so you can see it again. I'll just do this. So up top we have send this code to your teammate, and you can see that Dom is already ready. What I actually did is that the system that decides the moves only reads codes, and when you select your action, the code that I say to send to your teammate is the system will automatically put it down here as if I wrote 60 on my own like this. So that's how it knows that Dom's action has been selected. The other thing is that the codes are, well, they are in base 3, but that's more technical. The information that I'm carrying are specifically which action I'm doing, which player is doing said action, and in specific cases I need to know, like, I have a target value. It's very specific because only Voxy will use it if they use their special. I need that to determine who is going to get healed after that. So I have these 3 values, and then I have an extra value, still base 3, that is the checksum. And actually I'm just going to interrupt this so that we can check the decoder in this pile of spaghetti. I cannot exit this game because otherwise I'd be spoiling stuff. But I'm pretty sure the decoder is over here. I know there's a lot of spaghetti, but as you can see, there are 4 counters over here. They all have the same settings. So if I check, see, they're set to loop 0 to 3, so they can only have 0, 1, and 2 as values. I'll change from 0. So when you input a code, either because you are playing as a character and I put it there automatically, or because you entered it manually, it's going to go through here, and then it's going to be decoded into the base 3 digits. This one represents the player, so 0 will be Dom, 1 is Mastered, and 2 is Voxy. This one represents the action, so 0 is attack, 1 is special, and 2 is defend. This one is the target, which isn't always used, but if used, it means that I'm doing a heal as Voxy, so it would look like 2 over here, one over here, so 2 because you're Voxy, 1 because it's a special move in the middle, and here I would have a target. 0 means I'm healing Dom, 1 means I'm healing Mustard, and 2 means I'm healing Voxy. Finally, the checksum. So the checksum is something that you can calculate from these three. And what's happening here is that, as you can see, I mean, it's tough to see, but as you can see, these three counters are all wired to the top port of this calculator, and I need this to actually get the checksum. So the checksum is the sum of these first three values, and the fourth digit represents this result. So in theory, if you input a code and it's correct, the result of the sum of the first three values will be equal to the checksum. Of course, since I'm in base 3, the checksum is also in base 3, so it loops if it goes too far. But yeah, this is how I check if a code is correct or not, and these are the values that are then translated after after some dark magic. Again, it's not that tough, but over here we have the system that actually handles the turns. So this is what happens on Dom's turn, this is Mustard, this is Voxy, and this is the boss itself, which is actually very interesting because as you've seen before, I'm going to simulate still as Dom. If everyone defends, okay, we have the information about the action, now we know how it's working. But, okay, so Dom does the action, Mustard, Voxy, and then the boss. Where exactly did I store this information? Because I never said in these codes, the boss is going to attack Dom, Mustard, and Voxy in that specific order. And if I restart, I'm still Dom because I retried, and we do the same codes, you will notice that it will play out exactly the same. So clearly I'm doing something interesting here. I'm not using a random node. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't have a random node at all. Usually, first of all, I'm using a pseudo-random number generation. Yeah, seed time. Exactly, RJ. So the seed is it's this counter. This counter is the seed, and I only use it once when the thing actually starts. When the turn-based battle actually starts. By actually starts, I mean you start seeing the actions play out. So right after you input the codes. And this is actually important because usually you'd need to set a seed actually not usually, all the time. If you're using a pseudo-random number generator, you need to set a seed before you start generating the numbers, because right now it's at 0. It's not able to generate a number, it needs an input over here. And usually you just have another extra code at the beginning to set a seed for everyone. But I never did that. If I enter this, sure, I can select the player, but this is not enough information. What's happening is that I'm using, since I don't need the random numbers right away, I just need them as soon as the boss starts attacking, I can actually do a different kind of initialization. Instead of using a code, I'm using the actions. So when I select defend, and the other players also select whatever they want to do, they are contributing to creating a seed. So I'm going to play this out one more time. If everyone else defends, this is also demonstrating that I can put them in a different order. And again, the code knows that was a Voxy code because it will read among the digits which player it was. But if I do everyone defend, right now I set the seed, because everyone has access to everyone else's actions as well as their own. And by finding an operation that can take these three codes and put them together in a way in which order doesn't matter, such as just summing them up, because the codes were like, what, 07, 35, and 60. No matter in which order you sum them up, you're going to get the same number either way. So right after this first turn, I set the seed. And now I'm set for life. I don't need to do anything else. Everyone has the same seed, and these random random numbers will be the same sequence for everyone. I'm going just to show that if I were to attack instead, that's a different thing. I'm not sending 60 anymore, I'm sending 0-0. Let's say the other two defend, but you'll see that the boss does something different this time. See, it only attacked Voxy. As you can see also from the HP, it registered, and if I was playing this as Mustard, for instance, or Voxy, I would be seeing the same thing on their own screen. Actually, I can just test it out real quick. So, let's say I play as Mustard, I decide to defend personally, but Dom decided to attack, so it sent 0-0. And the Voxy decided to defend. So this is the same thing that we just saw, but now from Mustard's perspective. So this happens, and then it will attack Voxy 3 times in a row. So this is how the seed is set, and again, I can get away with this because I don't need the randomness right away. If you were to need it right away, you'd need to send an extra code at the beginning so that everyone's on the same page. But since I don't need the randomness immediately, I can have everyone select their action and contribute to creating the seed as a whole. And then there's the whole generating thing. So this is what will give us the next random number every time. And then if I check here, I have a pretty big range. The reason is that, remember, when you use one of these, you are going to create a random sequence that will repeat after it gets to the start again, to the seed again. So in order to avoid issues like if I use a small number, it's going to become very predictable after a while because you're going to be able to see that it repeats the same things, especially if it lines up correctly. So I just have a huge sequence, and then I'm using a few of these. These two nodons put together like this are a continuous modulo, which thanks Dirt for showing the setup a while ago. So they're very similar to what we were doing with the other counters. It's set to loop, but it's set to while, not 0. And basically, thanks to this calculator... Oh, got to go. See ya, RJ. Anyways, this, of course, I'm recording, so this will be available for everyone to see. But with this plus wired to the countdown port and the big value wired up to the count up port, this is continuously checking the, in this case, the modulo 10 of the number that it receives. So in this way, for instance, this one will give me a random number, kinda, between 0 and 9 included. And actually, this one is pretty rare because you don't see it in action often, but this is the one that calculates whether a lucky hit will happen or not. And essentially, if it's 9... Yeah, if it's 9, it will be a double. As you can see, it multiplies by 1 the attack, but if it's 9, it will multiply by 2. This is how the map with enable range works here. So it will double the damage if you get a lucky hit. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. And of course, if it happens, since everyone uses the same seed, everyone will see it happen on the same turn for the same character. Other setups that I have here, I think this is for the boss, so that the boss chooses who to attack. So this one can be 0, 1, 2. So if it's 0, it attacks Dom. If it's 1, it attacks Mustard. And if it's 2, it attacks Foxy. And finally, this one, which I think is like 0 to 6 or 0 to 7. Yeah. This one, okay, 6 is not included, of course, because of the loop. It's numbers 0 through 5. It's 6 different things. And these are actually the Dom special actions. So when Dom uses a special, it toggles a random effect. And this random effect is chosen here. And this is what Voxy pointed out yesterday. They were like, wait, we input 30 for Dom it 2 times in a row, and yet it triggered a different thing. This is why, because 30 represents just the action. So if we were to decode 30, other than the checksum, which we're going to ignore, we'd get that Dom sent it, so it's 0 on the player. It's a special move, so it'd be 1 on the special, on the action, and it doesn't use the target, so target would also be 0. So get that, and yeah, Dom will send, yeah, actually it checks out because it'd be what, 27 plus 3, in fact. Because 27 is the checksum, and 3 is the action, and everything else is 0. So yeah, that's 30. Dom will send that over, but then it's like, okay, it knows the action, it knows that it has to trigger one of these. In order to decide it, it will pull a random number, and it will just check then which one it should trigger. You'll see that it's not 6 but 7. This 7th one is the one that's get hard-coded in once you've done enough of Dom's actions to have it fall through the floor. at the end of the fight. And the reason there are two files and not one, this is actually for a small detail that Freddy noticed yesterday, is that if you're playing as Dom, it will say you change the person node on section or you move the person node on forward. But if you're playing as Voxy or Mustard, it will actually trigger these ones up here that don't say you but say Dom did this thing. So down here if you're player 1, and up here if you're not player 1, so either 2 or 3. Other than that, the random decision is still the same. As you can see, this is the X of the marker. So yeah, the Y checks which player you are and decides which speech bubble to do, and X will just decide which still which speech bubble, but also what's going to happen to the person now. Yesterday the effects were all shown but one. There are actually two ways you can change the action. You can change the action of the person. They're both bad, pretty much. You the person node can change action, can change the final kick to an uppercut. That's what we saw yesterday. But I can also change the 2 punches for a spin. The spin does low damage, but it attacks everyone. But you never saw it, but it's fair enough. Like it was pretty much random what you were going to see yesterday. I say yesterday, I mean the day that this game was showcased for the jam. I don't think, like, in terms of technicalities, I don't think there's much else to show. I will show something, I will show, I guess, 2 fun facts. One that has to do with okay, let's just do it. So let's say I play as Dom. So you know that, you should know that when you defend, you also get some TP, and the TP is used for the special attacks. So I'm just going to build up some TP. So it's now my turn. I still don't have enough TP. I need 20. So let's build them up again. So everyone also defends this turn. So this is how it will play out. Now I have 36 TP. This is where I can start to see something interesting from my perspective. I can now use the special. I don't have to, I cancelled out. But I can use the special because it's bigger than 20. Now, I realized this was a bit of an issue and I had to find a fix for it somehow. It went through 2 iterations actually. But the problem here is that 36 is enough for Dom's special, but it's also enough not for Mustard, but for Voxy. So let's say that it just so happens that on the same turn, both Dom and Voxy decide to use a special. I didn't think about that, and when I thought about that, I was like, oh shit. This is, I may need more codes, and then I came up with this interesting idea. Let's not do more codes. Let's say that both use the special because I can't predict what the other players are doing. So let's say that Dom uses the special, okay? Okay, so Dom confirms special. Mustard, let's defend, okay? And Voxy decides to heal. Actually, I didn't check. Let's just say that it heals Dom. Healing Dom should be 0.5. So, look. I did my special. It went down by 20, the TP. You change person node on section, so it's actually bad for me. But it's fine. Then, Master Defense. See, it went negative. This is actually planned. And the reason I did this is because, technically, Voxy wanted to do the special, and he could. Because 36 was enough for the special, and Dom also wanted to do the special, and it's 20. So they both are able to do the special if you don't look immediately at what the other is doing. I didn't want to have a failing the special because the other. I thought it will just be funnier to have the negative. Actually, initially I was just like, whatever. I can have this as a mechanic, and it stops at 0. Like, you get a discount if you strategize when to use the specials. And I was like, actually, you know, I could just be funny, have it going negative, and you know it's planned. It may look weird, but you know it's planned because right here I had to use an extra extending object. You see that orange thing? Extending objects only extends in a positive direction, so I can just wire a negative thing and it will start going in the opposite. That's another extending object to represent when it goes negative. But now you can just play as per usual. You can just defend again, for instance, and you'll slowly build up TP again. This actually happened yesterday because of other reasons, though. But yeah, that's just to show that the the tension points going into the negatives was actually a planned thing. For like it actually makes I planned for that to happen if you use the specials at, I guess, inconvenient times. Not really inconvenient, but more like it's going to be an inconvenience bringing it back to a high positive value. But yeah, the only other thing is that since it's in base 3, we're going back to the codes. Base 3 4 digits, these values can go from 0 to 80. From 00 to 80, technically. Of course, not all of them are going to be correct, because if the target doesn't make sense, because you're trying to use it when... Oh. I did not hear you. Come in, Mr. President. Damn.
Hello, I joined because I'm bored.
Yeah, I was explaining actually a funny thing. I'm actually almost done explaining this stuff very, very casually. But the thing is that the codes can only go from 0 to 80. Not all of them are correct, either because of the checksum or because of the target value. But they go from 0 to 80. That leads to the question, what happens if you input something bigger than 80? You can. I never checked for that. This is going to be showcase a little thing called an overflow. So let's say I'm playing as Mustard and Dom decided to attack. Attacking would be 0-0. I'm going to defend as Dom and as Mustard and as Voxy. But if I were to attack with Dom, I should input 0-0. I can do something else. It'd be freaking hilarious if it fails somehow. But in theory, if I'm not dumb, I can just input 81. The thing is that 81 is too big for 4 digits in base 3. I can only go up to 80. So what happens when I input 81 is that I would be adding one more than the maximum amount allowed in base 3, and that will turn every digit into 0. Essentially giving me an equivalent to the 0-0 code that Dom theoretically sent me in this hypothetical. I'm just going to see if it works. It accepted it and it attacked. So yeah, that's an overflow. Essentially, the best way I can explain, I can probably visualize it, is that imagine you are in base 10 for a moment. So just counting normally. Let's say you only have two slots for the digits, right? That means that the number you can input goes from 0 to 99, okay? What if you want to add 1 to 99? You can't, because you don't have enough digits. But if you did, you do like the elementary addition thing. You'd go to the units, you do 9 plus 1, that would be 0, and then you carry over the 1 to the tens. Then you do 9 plus the nothing, but actually there's also the carry, so 9 plus 1 again, that's 0. And then you carry over to the hundreds. The problem is that we don't have a hundred slot. So what's left is 0-0 on the actual number display. If you go 99 plus 1 and you don't have a third, the 100th digit, you'll be just left with 0-0. And that's exactly what happened here when I input 81, just in a different base. 81 is too big for 4 digits in base 3. And that means that what happened is that 80 would be 2222 written in base 3. And if I do add 1, I do the same thing that I just explained in base 10 of adding 1, get 0, and carry over the 1. It triggers a chain reaction that basically brings zeros on all readable digits over here. And there will be a 1 carry above that I'm not checking for. So yeah, that's a fun fact. So there's technically overflow codes, meaning there are more possible codes. You'll never see them because in normal gameplay, because I don't tell you to send 81 as Dom. I tell you to send 0 if you attack. But yeah, there are some extra codes that still work with this system. I think I showed pretty much all the interesting stuff. Essentially, now you know what the codes meant. What the how the events are set up in a way that everyone is synchronized using the pseudo-random numbers, and I guess this thing is just turn-based battles using the codes and the codes only to figure out what Dom, Mustard, and Voxy are going to do. So yeah, again, the setups I decided to show today are only the ones that are useful for party play and maybe useful for other technical stuff. Like, for instance, just I'm going to just go on a small tangent, but this right here, the pseudo random number generator, I think it could be a game changer for many Game Builder Garage games in the future. It has a bunch of interesting uses, and I mean, I'm saying a bunch as what I'm thinking you can do with it, but other people can, of course, once they understand pretty much how it works, they can also figure out stuff I probably would never think of that still use this thing. So I think this is going to be a pretty interesting setup. And if you're thinking, bro, I can't read it, you're right. But remember, all of these setups I already explained and shared a clean code for in my previous video, the GBG overview for codes and coding, decoding, and of course pseudo-random numbers. So you can find all the setups over there. And yeah, I hope you like this little insight on this game I made recently. See ya.